Good morning, everybody, and happy Aloha Friday, of course. Welcome to PSG of Mercer County. The Professional Service Group of Mercer County is a group that is here for you, anybody that is in any kind of career transition and is managing their job search process. That is what PSG of Mercer County is here for. So we do have a lot of resources for you. Oh, and I forgot to say, today, this is great for when you get let go from your job. Today is National Blame Someone Else Day. So when you get let go from your job, you can blame somebody else. You can blame the boss, you can blame the management, whoever you want to blame. Today could be a good holiday for some of you. But of course, once you are in your job search, you can't blame anybody else because it's a process you will work through yourself. So celebrate Happy Blame Somebody Else Day. And if we're not together, you can blame me for whatever goes wrong today, and that's fine. Today is also Friday the 13th. So if any of you are superstitious, you can blame Friday the 13th on whatever goes wrong. So I guess the two of them go together. I am not superstitious. I do not fear Friday the 13th. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, like a lot of children, I had my tonsils removed, and it was on December, Friday the 13th. And I survived that, so I don't think of it as something scary. So that's just me. PSG of Mercer County does have many resources for you. We make them available to anyone, and our goal is to help you become more efficient and more effective in your own job search, and hopefully some of the resources that we provide you can indeed help you do that. For instance, we do have our LinkedIn group, so when you're in LinkedIn, you can search for PSG of Mercer County. And do find the group. If you are not yet a member, please join our group. We have over 1,680 members right now, and they are all people that have visited our meeting at least once, whether virtually over the last year and a half or in person. And also, we do encourage you to take advantage of the group, be active on the group. Maybe you can share an article, or you've received an email, excuse me, an email with an interesting job lead. It just doesn't pertain to your background. Copy and paste that into our LinkedIn group for others to have. Every once in a while, people do email me a job lead and they say, hey, David, post this on PSG. And I don't post them because I get too many from other people. Instead, I encourage you to do the posting yourself on our LinkedIn group. LinkedIn really appreciates your activity. It'll reward you in many ways in terms of your profile effectiveness and being found. So do contribute. If you're not ready to do that, maybe you saw an interesting article, just post the link, you can share that. Or just comment on somebody else's post. You can comment even something simply like thanks for sharing or nice post, keep it nice and simple. Also, what you can do is we do have our website. Our website is psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org. It is over 120 pages of web content, so it's a very robust website with a lot of information. We do have an open jobs page, and if you click on that, the menu item right on top, there are a couple of things that are there. One is a job postings, which has unfortunately not been very active, but also there are links to over 2,600 company career pages. And these are all companies that have some presence in our service area for PSG of Mercer County, and that would be Mercer County and the 6 border counties, so any of the counties that actually share a border with Mercer County. So when you're on that page, you can click on the county that you may be interested, and then once you click on the county, a new page opens and it shows you up to 12 different areas where jobs may be. For instance, it might be financial services, or maybe it'll be not-for-profits, or education. So start looking, because we don't have job postings, but what we do have are links to those company career pages. We can't promise you that the companies will have positions in each of the counties, but we do have them there. At the very least, you can use our page as a way of creating a targeted company list. And by creating a targeted company list, you'll now know companies that will be geographicly in your area. So you will want to use it for that purpose as well. Okay. Do want to let you know what our kind of ground rules, or to set some expectations for you today. We do ask that you do keep your presentation and your microphone on mute. Unless you do have a specific question, we'll have ways of asking questions. But we do ask that you keep it on mute. And again, it's just to keep any accidental background noise from coming through or interruptions. Gary is letting us record this presentation, so the recording is going right now, so that's kind of nice. So if you miss something and you want to come back to it, or you want to share this with a friend, you can from our YouTube channel. Now, as for using questions, we use chat to alert us that you do have a question. So chat in the upper right corner is a little icon, at least if you have the GoToMeeting app. It's a little icon. It's a circle with a tab at the bottom. It's called a call out. And so what you can do is click on chat to open that up. And then at the bottom, you can type your message. And it gives you an option of who to send it to. Please send it to everybody, not just me, not just Gary, not organizer, because we want to make sure that both myself and Gary can both see the questions. And if you send it to one of us only, the other may miss it. And we ask what you do is type the word question. If you type the word question with nothing else, then what I will do is just excuse Gary or excuse myself to interrupt Gary, let him know there's a question, and then you can unmute yourself and ask Gary at that time. So I'll say something like, oh, excuse me, Gary, David has a question, and then Gary can just pause right there. The other thing you can do, if you would prefer, is type the word question and then type your question. And then what I will do is I will read it out loud. So I'll do that if you would prefer not to actually unmute and speak the question. And you can do that all during the presentation. Gary will stop periodically as well just to check in on us if we have questions, but he had said that he'd like questions as close to his comments and points as possible. So that's the way we'll do it. And the reason why we use the word question, a lot of people do put other information in chat, like their contact information and welcome information. So when I see the word question, it helps that stand out, and I hopefully I won't miss your question. So that's why we like to use that. Okay, so I think we're all set to go. And PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome back as our presenter, Gary Lande. Gary is a professional career coach who focuses on helping individuals in career transition develop their written job search materials and guides them through the transition process from job application to job offer. He's also a member of the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. His mission is helping open interview doors for his clients. He does this by working with them to perfect their resume, optimize their LinkedIn profile, and writing compelling cover letters and winning thank you letters. Gary is also a member of the PSG of Mercer County Executive Committee, and we are very appreciative of that. He is the chair of the training committee and that develops programs supporting individuals in job search. He has conducted numerous presentations for this group, as well as other networking venues in the central New Jersey area. Prior to supporting his clients in search of career opportunities, he was a supply chain management executive in Fortune 100 pharmaceutical and consumer products companies, including Bristol Myers Squibb and J&J. Gary enjoyed a long and successful corporate career. He has substantial personal experience in job search, which he shares, having been in career transition himself several times. PSG of Mercer County is always pleased to welcome Gary Lande. Gary, it is your meeting.
David, thank you for the intro. And I'm going to kind of pick up where you left off, and that is about downsizing. I wanted to share it with you that during my long career of 40 plus years, I was affected by downsizing 3 times. I was very, very fortunate to each time have professional outplacement job support, where I learned the ropes of job search. And in addition to having that professional support, I attended a lot of meetings like this one, networking meetings, meetings with presentations about the various aspects of job search. Well, I'll tell you, I don't have an exact count, but I have attended through the years hundreds and hundreds of meetings. And going back to what Alex was saying before we started the meeting, that he was curious about what I'm going to say, the reason why I chose this particular subject is that in all the hundreds and hundreds of meetings I have ever attended, I have never seen one addressing letters. Back in my days at Johnson & Johnson, I was working for a guy who was a super manager, and one of the mentoring things that he taught me was, Gary, look for things as you do your job to fill voids. Do something or address something or take up a challenge of something that nobody else has. Excuse me. And this will help you in your career progress. And so I'll use that as a kind of a jumping off point to tell you that's why I decided to put together something for you addressing cover letters and thank you letters. As I have gone to the internet, as I'm sure you have, and I've read a lot of these letters, I think many of them do not say a lot of the important things that you could or should be saying as part of your job search process. And that's why my bottom line on this is that a lot of these letters underutilize the power and the importance of letters. So what I'm going to do in the content today is show you examples of things that are typical cover letters, and then show you and share with you actual letters that I have written and also that my son has written that led us to successful interviews and successful offers. So the objective of the presentation, obviously, is to tell you and suggest to you what you should say in your letters to enhance your candidacy. We want you, and you want you to stand out from the group. And you want to be setting yourself apart from your competition. The challenge is, as you think about people who recruit today, and I'm talking about recruiters, or hiring managers or HR managers, everybody is extremely busy. Everybody's working under pressure and deadlines. There is the problem of short attention span. Alex has put together some very, very interesting presentations about this, comparing the human attention span to that of a goldfish. And I find it amusing, and I also find it very much a matter of fact. And, you know, each of them is looking for the very best match for every position. So it behooves you to be very precise and very concise in what you say. Underline the word concise because of the working under pressure and the short attention span to make an impression. And that's certainly what you want to do. So just for some high-level overview for cover letters, you can submit your resumes with a cover letter. Some people do not. We had many months ago a town hall meeting at PSG where there was an HR panel of people who are professional recruiters and human resources managers, and some of them said they don't read cover letters. Well, I dare say that as this presentation goes on, I think you're going to see, I'm going to show you how to make sure that they do read them. And it is definitely going to help you make a difference in setting yourself apart. And of course, the question is, based on what you're doing, are you getting interviews? I view these letters as very, very important part of your marketing documents, and maybe in some cases, even as important as your resume. But here's what I find in reading most typical cover letters. They're too long, or they're too short. And this is really my big criticism of letters that I do read. They just say what's in the resume. So you address somebody and you tell them you're interested in this particular position, and you tell them what your basic interest and qualifications are, and you sign off. But there's nothing else in there that really does any more to inform the reader about you than what they would read in the resume. That's underutilized. In short, they don't provide enough information that enhances their candidacy. Just to go over the basic mechanics of cover letters, how do you send them? You can certainly submit online as a second document along with your resume. And you do that just by submitting it as the second document after your resume. Don't send it first, put it in second. Or you can email it separately if you want to. And in my case, through the years, I've sent letters through snail mail. And the interesting thing about snail mail is most people are not getting any snail mail these days. So marketing people that I know tell me that one of the things that you do in trying to get more attention to yourself is doing something that's a little different. When I was working, if an envelope crossed my desk, I certainly was going to stop what I was doing and pardon me, I was going to read it without fail because it's the exception. So I kind of like snail mail. You have to be the judge of that. If you write snail mail, make sure you use business letter format and quality matching letter and envelope stationery. You're going to do this, you have to do it professionally. And at the executive level, people at C-suite, you find more and more of this as I talk to people, because you may think it's a little old-fashioned, but it is also very, very much more personal and professional. And by all means, include your resume. If you don't want to send the resume, you don't have to, but it's your choice to do when you send a cover letter to send the resume or not.
Excuse me, Gary, there's a question from Michael.
What I'd like to do, David, instead, since I think this is going to promote a lot of questions, is further on in the presentation, there's a slide with which will be a pause point at the end of cover letters. And it's the picture of the statue of Rodin, the thinker.
Okay.
Let's save the questions for then, and we'll stop the presentation, and I'll answer all of them then.
Very good.
Okay. So here's an example of what I would say is an underutilized cover letter. Okay, I'm writing this in this case to the manager of human resources, and I say, please read with me. I just wanted to let you know that I've submitted my resume for the manager of production planning position posted on monster.com. And as you review my experience and accomplishments, you'll see that I have many of the qualifications listed in the job description. I'm a supply chain management professional with many years of experience in the pharmaceutical and consumer products industry. As you review my background, you'll see some of my greatest accomplishments include capacity planning and priority planning, which dramatically improve service to customers. And I'm very interested in speaking with you. This is a traditional closure. You know, I can be reached. Here's my telephone number, and I look forward to hearing from you. That would be a decently written, but what I call underutilized cover letter. Now I will show you the actual letter that I mailed to Judy Smith and what I've done to help make emphasis on what the difference is between a real basic letter and an actual cover letter that has more compelling information. I've yellow highlighted what's important that I added. So here's your business letter format. And if you do snail mail, observe this with the date and your address and who this is going to. And it's Dear Judy, I just wanted to send you a personal note. And please note the choice of words here. I'm letting her know this is something personal of my interest in this position. And this is what I think is really important to familiarize myself with the company. I took the opportunity to connect with some former employees. Now, these are people that the HR manager knows. Cassie and Jan spoke very highly of RFB&D as an educational company specializing in helping students with learning disabilities to learn better by listening to textbooks recorded on CD. In particular, Cassie shared with me that the company is growing rapidly and that operations is challenged to supply thousands of books on CDs to needy students on time. Both of them suggested that I contact you. Then I talk about my supply chain management background. And there's something important here in the next sentence, starting, I am seeking. As soon as anybody receives your resume, and if they're interested in you, you've gotten through the ATS system, the next thing they're probably going to do beyond reading it is also look at your LinkedIn profile. Well, I anticipated that they would do that, and they see that I'm from pharmaceuticals and consumer products, and what the heck does that have to do with supplying thousands of textbooks on CDs to needy students? Absolutely nothing, right? And the other thing is they would see that I had been an executive in Bristol Myers, and I actually reached the level of senior director. And I was concerned that they would say, this guy's overqualified. We don't want him. So the next sentence is chosen especially to address that. I am seeking a second career where I can use my knowledge and experience from top-notch companies to make a special contribution to your organization. The second career point kind of highlights the fact that I have decided that I don't need to continue in pharma and consumer products, and also that I'm seeking another opportunity to diversify my background. And since it's a second career, it doesn't have to be at the level that I worked before. So this a little bit here I consider artful anticipation of the kind of questions that this person is asking themselves as they're looking at my resume and they're reading about my background. This is something very personal, and it's true. When they were children, both of my sons needed help with their reading skills to do better in school. As a parent of kids who were struggling, I appreciate the importance of the special educational assistance that they received. It would be particularly meaningful to me if my work enabled me to give something back by helping learning disabled students. I'm interested in speaking with you about this opportunity, and here's how you can contact me. I'll share this with you now. I started this search on a Monday morning. I opened monster.com and saw 3 job opportunities. This was one of them. I sent this letter. I received a call on Tuesday to come in for a meeting on Wednesday. I was called again on Thursday, told that I would have an offer in the mail. I received the offer in the mail on Friday and wrote back acceptance. Literally a 1-week cycle, and the fact that I was able to find this opportunity with the very, very first screen that I opened is absolutely, when I think about it, mind-boggling compared to the amount of work that people do today over the course of days and weeks and even months looking for opportunities. I'm only sharing that as a sidebar because it is the first and only time in my life that something happened that fast. The last time that I was unemployed and searching for opportunities, I was out of work for the entire year of 2009. So the reason I'm sharing that is you got to keep your mind open and realize that anything can happen in job search. I think most of you realize that now. And this was one of the ones that happened very quickly, and it was very, very gratifying to me. So just to quickly summarize, and then we'll go to questions. If you are writing snail mail, these are the things you should do. You can go back to the slide. Be sure to explain why you're writing the letter. And boy, I just can't overemphasize this. This networking to people who are in companies is supremely, supremely important. Why? They can look at us and say, here are this person's qualifications. They can do this job. The next most important question is this person going to be a good fit in the culture of the company, work well with the people in my department, et cetera, et cetera. It's the personal side. And you can be sure that the HR manager spoke at least with one of those two people and said, hey, what's your opinion of this guy, Gary, that you spoke with? Once that happens, this increases the level of comfort that a hiring manager has with you in comparison to somebody else that did not do this. And I often think, especially by the time when people that we had in personal meetings of PSG, when they shared their content and shared how they landed, so many of them spoke about their networking contacts, getting information to somebody that worked in the company. I really think this is one of the most important things that you do today, in addition to having the qualifications for the job. Obviously, in this case, I certainly was very fortunate to have some personal experience that aligned with what the company does. And you may say, well, you know, I don't have that. If you don't have that, that's okay. Then what you do is research the website, research other companies in the industry, and most importantly, learn about the challenges. And in your letter, you can write a lot about that in a short paragraph or two, and that will separate you from your competition. It is always better to write something that's very interesting, or better yet, to write something that's very compelling. And don't forget, this is something I've talked to people about that I've coached. Make sure if there's a recruiter involved, any written communications, you copy the recruiter. You don't want to alienate them. You want to keep them in the loop. So that's it for cover letters, and I welcome questions and comments.
I see you have a picture of you sitting in your den, so that's nice.
Me. That's right.
So Michael has a question that was from you, one of the bullet points at the beginning of cover letters. Why is it significant to place it, which I guess is the cover letter, second on an online submission?
I'm sorry, repeat the first part of the question, David.
Why, this is from Michael, why is it significant to place it, which I believe is the cover letter, why is it significant to place it second on an online submission? I think that was the context of uploading.
Yes. The first thing that the applicant tracking system wants to see is the resume. And if you upload a cover letter with it, the cover letter is just seen as an extension of the resume, which is what you want. Applicant tracking systems do more than just scan them and look at your qualifications to see if they match the job. They are recording the history of you applying in the HR or the recruiter's records. And fields get populated with that information. And that's, of course, at the top of your resume, and that's what the ATS system is looking for. So definitely always put your cover letter second. Does that answer the question?
Sorry, I was on mute. I think it did, so thank you. This
Okay.
next question is from Ali. Is it okay to make a generic cover letter that can be modified slightly for each job, or should each one be brand new?
No, I really like the question. Once you develop a format for yourself, showing your background and your career, yeah, that's really, I think it's a good idea. You will find that only a couple of the paragraphs that would change that are specific to the position and to the company that you're talking to. But some of the rest of this you can see is pretty bulleted format. Obviously, anything that has to do with a company would be separate, but the introduction and the closure will be the same. So that's a good idea. You can develop your basic structure and your basic content and only modify that which has to do specifically with that particular opportunity and company.
Okay. The next question is from Jean. Why not include the cover letter in the body of the email that includes the resume?
Why not include the cover letter in the body?
In other words, the email is the cover letter and you attach the resume. That's what it sounds like. And Jean, if you want to clarify, please unmute and do so.
Yeah, why don't you ask that person to clarify it, David?
Yeah, I think David, I think you have it right. I think I was another seminar where it was suggested that most people are reluctant to opening two attachments to an email these days. So if you really want to send a resume and a cover letter, the cover letter should be the email, and then the resume should be the only attachment. At least that's what we were advised to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't mix the two together. If that's basically what you're asking me, I would stick to keeping the documents separate.
Okay. And then there's a generic question. Are you going to cover the thank you letter? And I believe that is coming next.
Absolutely. That's the segue. Thank you.
Okay, so we owe that person 25-cent commission for the segue.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's it with the questions right now on cover letters.
Okay, super. Then we're going ahead to thank you letters. Okay, you certainly want to write thank you letters and copy all the people you spoke with. Now, this comes up a lot with me when people have an interview and they speak with 3, 4, 5, or 6 different individuals. And there's 2 ways that you can handle this. One is to write each one a thank you letter or a thank you note. And the other one is to address it to the group. It depends. You can also address it to the person who you know is the key person, let's say the hiring manager, and just copy the other people so that you recognize that they participated in the process and you're already establishing some thank you and some line of communication with them. So definitely copy one way or the other. Definitely communicate with all the people that you spoke with. And what happens? What are the results then? Obviously, do you get called back for a second interview? Was there a job offer? Did you get any negative feedback? And I've had, of course, some of the things that didn't work out. I've gotten some negative feedback, but it was constructive. This goes beyond the cover letter. This was something happened in a personal discussion with somebody. But if you can get feedback of any kind, I think that it's worth it. But take it with a grain of salt, because a lot of the feedback can be biased, it can be not factual, or it can be something, especially if it's from somebody in the HR field, who has legal restrictions on what they can say and what they can't say. So I wouldn't rule out requesting some feedback if you don't get the job offer, and if the search is not going to continue. But take it with a grain of salt. So most client thank you letters, people that I have worked with and helped, thank the interviewer, but here's the but. They do not summarize what was important in the interview strongly or well enough. They don't explain that they really understand the hard challenges of the job. And they do not emphasize enough their value proposition and how they could bring their strengths and their experience to meet the challenges. So these are the things when I work with people that I really work on and help them sharpen up what they write. Again, as before, you can send thank you letters by email, you can send them by snail mail. Some people like to send it by registered mail. That's another way to make sure that it gets read. But I think I'm reflecting my experience through the years, and I think today, with technology being what it is, if you want to use snail mail, that's fine. But I wouldn't think that you have to send it registered email. Send it either by email or snail mail in a regular letter. So here again would be an example of a letter format that I would be writing to this hiring manager, Nick Adams, but this is a bare bones letter. Thanks for spending time with me regarding the Director of Materials position. I believe you'll see from our conversations that my experience and accomplishments in the drug industry are a good match for the job. Now, this is a pharmaceutical company, so that stands tall because of my background with Johnson & Johnson and Bristol Myers. I'm very interested in this opportunity and look forward to meeting you again to learn more about the responsibilities and how I can make a positive contribution as a member of your team. Signed, Gary. All right. It's a recognition letter that we spoke. I thank him for our conversation, and I tell him that I'm interested in looking forward to meeting with him again and learning what I can do as a member of his team. This is the actual letter, and this I did snail mail, so it's in the snail mail format. Dear Nick, thanks for taking the time for our meeting and sharing information with me about the company and the supply management function. Your detailed description of the organizational and business issues being addressed provided me with a good understanding of the challenges facing the new Director of Materials Management. I'm excited about the possibility of joining Phison's because I want to build a long-term career with a company that is a leader in its marketplace, providing the first non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for treatment of asthma. This, at the time, was a big deal, and this is something that the company was developing, and I show that I recognize the importance of this. A position with the company would offer me the opportunity to improve materials management performance in ways that I have done in previous drug companies, which had an impact on sales and profits. I believe that my background and achievements are an exceptionally strong match for your needs. And this is now getting into detail. Specifically, our discussion made it clear that planning and purchasing, the areas in which I am professionally certified and have the greatest depth of experience, are exactly the ones especially in need of improvement. As you know, I have successfully increased customer service levels and reduced purchasing costs throughout my career. Further, my consulting experience has developed my ability to implement new systems policies, and procedures that will improve efficiency in managing these functions. I'm eager to learn more about the improvements that can be made to strengthen the material management function, and I'm looking forward to getting together with you and other members of the Phison's organization to continue our discussion. Sincerely. One of the things that I did during my interviews is I always took a pad into an interview meeting with me, and I always asked if it was okay to take notes. I wanted detail. That information that I was recording in the meeting became the body and the focus of the thank you letter. Sometimes somebody would say, nah, I don't want you. Why don't you and I just talk? And that's fine. I carried with me in those days a dictaphone. And as I was leaving the meeting and going home, and all this was fresh in my mind, I was dictating notes on these things that I would otherwise have written. So that when I want to sit down and construct a letter, I had all these specifics that dovetailed in with the important points in the conversation. You can see that this makes a much stronger connection with the hiring manager, where you're showing him, hey, this is what he told you is important. And what he said was important, I'm now connecting with my value proposition and my achievements and experience during my career. So this is the format stuff that we went through before. You're thanking him for the meeting, why you're interested in the position, focusing on the key points, how your background experience makes you a great fit, and closure. And somebody asked the question before about developing a format letter. By all means, adopt this format and just adjust it for each of the thank you letters that you write. This is a smart thing to do. It's more efficient. Now I'm going to show you another actual letter, and this is the last one. And this is a letter that my son wrote for the position that he got about a year ago. Michael is in sales management, and his background is selling high technology industrial systems and equipment. And his previous employers were Boeing, General Dynamics, and Honeywell, just to give you some idea of his background. All right, this is an opportunity with another company in that business, and this is the actual thank you letter that Michael wrote to this gentleman, Farik, his prospective boss. Dear Farik, thank you very much for speaking with me last night. This was a video conference interview. I enjoyed our conversation and the opportunity to learn about the sales organization plans that you have for your division. Now, something very interesting happened during this meeting. Farik was so impressed with Michael that although Michael was applying for an account manager sales position, he asked Michael if he was aware that there was a business development leader role also, which had been posted that Michael didn't see. And this next paragraph shows Michael's response to this. He says, Farik, I reviewed the business development leader position on the company career website, as you suggested. After much consideration, I feel that the senior account manager role is the one I'd be more confident in, knowing that I can make a greater, more immediate contribution to the business. So Michael was actually foregoing an opportunity to be considered for this business development leader position, which was higher level. And here's why. With 20 years of field-based B2B technology sales experience, I have many of the skills and capabilities you're looking for in a business development leader. However, I feel that this role requires substantially more machine vision industry experience, that's what this division does, than I currently possess. As you know, my recent employment was significantly interrupted by a reorganization and then by COVID. That's the last two positions that Michael held where he was affected by restructuring. It is important to me that my next role begin from a position of strength where I have solid footing to contribute to increasing sales. Now, to me, when Fareeq reads this, he's developing a sense of confidence and respect for Michael, in Michael showing that he's more interested in doing a better job for the organization than he is in being considered for a higher role where he might not be as effective. I'm encouraged to learn that the machine vision business is expanding rapidly, and I'm confident that after 1 or 2 years of this experience in a senior account manager role, I will have the necessary knowledge and experience for future growth opportunities within your organization. So Michael now is showing his ambition, looking forward to grow in the company. And by the way, he's in his mid-40s, so plenty of time for him going forward in career. I'm just showing you this and explaining this to you because I liked the intelligence and the maturity of the way this was presented. And by the way, I will confess, even though I am a career coach and certainly very close to my son, I didn't help him write this letter. He wrote it himself. So that's not the end. Attached is an action plan that outlines how I begin tackling this role should I be selected for this position. This is a high-level overview, but I felt this might be a good way to share some of my initial thoughts that could be expanded upon with your input. Thank you again for time and consideration. I look forward to having further discussions. Warm regards. You see the personal touch here. It's dear Fareeq and it's warm regards. And these things just take it a little bit of a step higher when making a personal connection with somebody. And by the way, even though it's always better to have some personal connections inside the company, in this case, Michael did not. He did all this from scratch, from applying for the position outside the organization and competed against probably many other people. So this to me would have really done it. This would have really cinched it. This is a very, very good letter, but this wasn't enough. What he did was he listened to all the things that his prospective boss was thinking about, and he developed an action plan, which he mailed with the thank you letter, breaking down what he would do based on what he heard in 3 different phases. And you can read this quickly. Meeting with the boss to review current goals, meeting with the sales team. This is what you do early on. Focusing on the stakeholders, 3rd bullet, get up to speed on CRM and other back office systems. Gain in-depth technical knowledge, certainly learn about the regional markets. And then phase 2, start contacting the big customers. 3rd bullet, formulate strategies. Identify targeted companies to develop new business opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to read all the detail of this, but I doubt any other person that applied for this position would have taken the time to develop an action plan and submit it to their prospective boss. So this is really, to me, the absolute extra icing on the cake. And one of the feedback that Michael got was that he his boss felt that it was very, very impressive of him to show that he understood not just day-to-day sales and gaining more revenue dollars, but focusing on what kind of strategy the business would have to have in order to really grow the business organically. So there's a couple of thank you letters, food for thought, and your questions and thoughts.
So, yep, thanks, Gary. There is one from, hope I pronounce your name, Procopus, or Procopus. In a thank you letter, should we use last name or first name? I'm assuming that's in the honor, is it the honorific? Dear first name, dear last name?
I like just dear first name. Yeah, I get too many form letters that are addressed Dear Gary Lande. That's not personal. That's too impersonal. That's computer generated. I would definitely not do that. It's Dear Gary or Dear Farik or whoever.
Okay, and this is an opportunity for anyone else to ask a question of Gary about cover letters or thank you letters, but specifically since we just talked about thank you letters. So if you wanted to either just put the word question in chat or type your question in with the word question, either way will work.
Yeah, and David, considering the time, maybe we can open this up a little bit. And if people would like to ask other questions relevant to the job interview process, as time permits, I'm glad to handle some of those.
So is your thought you want to allow people just to unmute themselves? Or any question, we'll stick with the same format, but any topic is good.
Yes, as long as it's relevant somehow, germane to job application and even interviewing.
So there is a question from E, I'm not sure who E is. In the cover letter, if you don't have the name, how should we address the cover letter? Not sure whether you were answering, but just wondering.
Yeah, that's a toughie. If you're looking at jobs online and you'd like to write a cover letter, you don't want to write it, if you can, to Dear Recruiter or Dear Hiring Manager or Dear HR Manager. But sometimes you may have to, because no matter what you do, you just can't find out. If it's the company, all right, and the company's posting the opportunity, one of the things you can do, being a little creative, is dial in the main number and talk to a receptionist or somebody that answers the phone and ask for their help in just getting the name or the email address of, let's say, the HR manager. They should help you with that because it's information that's public. It's not private. And you explain, that you want to write a letter to this person and you want to make it better than Dear HR Manager. And that's something that I have done and it works. Sometimes you can't always do that, but try to get the name. If not, then you have to address it Dear and whatever the title of the person is.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Gary. One thing I used to do in that situation, I would not identify a role. I would not say, Dear HR Manager. I would simply write something like, good afternoon, comma, and then go into the body of my text.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah,
you can do that.
I don't know that it did or didn't work, but or how it was received, but that's what I would try. And yeah. Craig is asking, how about to whom it may concern?
Yeah, geez. That's like fourth down and punt from football. I really don't like that at all. I'd rather say Dear, and I'd rather put the what I think is the poster's job title. You could also say, Dear Sir, I see that question flashed up, but What if it's a woman? So if you want to do it that way, be on the safe side and say, dear sir / madam.
And I guess we don't use the new vernacular of dear he, him, his. You may remember, some people, if you're old enough, remember Laughing, and there was Lily Tomlin, the comedian, and she did a character of a telephone operator, and she would dial and say, "Is this the party to whom I am speaking?"
Yes, right. Right.
So probably also not quite as effective.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jim uses dear hiring team. Edith has tried dear IT. Only and okay. And Ali has tried dear and then puts the company name. So dear company professional. So different generic ways that people are sharing with us.
Yeah. You just have to try to be as targeted as you can with this based on the information that you have. And sometimes you just can't do more than that. Yeah. But it does pay with cover letters to write them to recruiters. It's something else, as you can see, where you can set yourself apart. Say the same things that we've been talking about this morning, and they'll get read. Most of the recruiters will read that because they're looking for people to separate the better people from the pack of applicants. And this is one of the areas where they want to see what you have to say that's not resume structured. You bring out as much as you can about your person, your personality, and your motivation and your interest. These are the kinds of things that make a difference between you and other candidates.
I do have a question, in the sense that we are often told that resume are reviewed in 9 seconds or less than 10 seconds. So is it your experience that I have my question has two parts. The first part is that, is it your experience that when an applicant makes it through the ATS and is forwarded to the hiring manager, that the resume and the cover letter are presented to the hiring manager, or does the cover letter live in HR? That's one aspect of my question. And the second aspect of my question, when we are in transition, we are always wondering whether the investment of time is worth it if most recruiters don't even read a cover letter after all. So I would appreciate your thought, any insight you might have on that.
David, you have to help me out here a little bit with that, because the sound coming from my laptop didn't make that clear what question he was asking.
So, Gene, you had a two-part question. Why don't you ask one at a time?
Okay, so the one question would be, is it worth the investment of time crafting a cover letter if they are seldom read?
So, did you hear that, Gary? Is it worth the time to create a cover letter if it may not be read?
Absolutely. It absolutely is. You have to put everything out there that you can that helps gain interest in yourself. For that matter, you can't even be sure that your resume is going to be read, because for most companies, especially the medium and larger companies, you know that your resume is going through an applicant tracking system. And the applicant tracking systems are set up to screen out people who are the more qualified ones, screen out the less qualified ones from the more qualified ones. And so for that matter, you can say, well, I'm not even going to apply. But if you feel strongly enough about the position that you're going to apply, and you know that you're going through ATS, and you hope that you have enough qualifications and experience that matches the job, then by all means, you should also be putting in a cover letter.
And Gene, the second part of your question, prior question?
The first part was to speak to whether yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. Let me come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I see your the second part of your question, I think, was I saw it flash up on my screen. Does the ATS read both the resume and the cover letter? And the answer is absolutely yes. What it's doing is it's continuing to do what it does, where it's programmed with all these key words and phrases that represent what qualifications the hiring people are looking for. And if it will find those things, which it probably will, in your cover letter, those things continue to add the benefit to the things that you wrote in your resume. So there's no conflict of interest there. It can only help, it will not hurt.
Yeah, and do remember Gary's earlier advice that if you could only attach or upload one document, you can combine the resume and the cover letter in the one document, but you place the resume first and the cover letter at the end. It seems counterintuitive, but if you think about if someone at the company opens the document and they don't see the resume because they're only looking at the first page, they may think, oh, this person did not include the resume, I'm just closing and moving on. So you want them to see the resume since that's what they're expecting. So Gary's advice is put the cover letter, append it to the bottom of the resume.
Yeah, it just comes through the system. If your resume was 2 pages, and by the way, your cover letter should only be a page. Don't get to multiple pages because of what I was saying before about the volume of work and attention span. You have to be as concise as you can be. But by submitting your 2-page resume and then let's say a 1-page cover letter, that cover letter really is just page 3. And there are people that have resumes that are 3 and 4 pages. So an ATS system doesn't really know that it's a cover letter. It just sees it as another page of the resume.
So then are you then suggesting that for those organizations where you have no space for a cover letter, that you input your cover letter in with your resume?
Is that the question again about the online submission?
Yeah, because there are some organizations that allow you to put only one document, and usually it's the resume. They make no room for cover letter. So I was wondering then that is it your advice to combine the 2 documents when your only option is to be able to attach 1 document?
Yeah, that I don't know about this. I don't see why, since you're just making it another page submission of your resume, I don't see why that doesn't work. I don't see why you can't submit that as the last page of your resume.
Okay.
Maybe they're telling you that because they don't want to be bothered reading it, but I would ignore that. I don't know why you can't do that.
Gary, John Sampson, if during the interview there have been a couple of bumps, I'm wondering about addressing those in the thank you letter. I know you want 10 years of SAP experience. I got 5, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you're saying that's a bump that you got an interview, but you're a little short of the mark, let's say, as you say, in years of experience, yeah, that's something you definitely want to address. The more open you are and the more personal you are in your contact, the better. That helps you to, with credibility, to be more convincing. Of course, you have to do a good job writing it, but in that case, you know, I'd be saying something like, yeah, we talked about the fact that you're looking for 10 years of experience. And as you know, I have only 5, but, you know, I'd be talking about the quality of the 5 years of experience as definitely qualifying you to do the job. Yeah, I wouldn't let it go by. I like addressing things like this that are concerns or questions. You getting a chance to recap the strengths that you bring to the position. And that's, John, that's really a good example, because frankly, it annoys me that I see so much of this, you know, looking for 15 years of experience, 10 years of experience. We tend to think about it. We tend to think metrically. You know, we think about 10, and we think about 20, and we think about 100. And sometimes I think these numbers come up as what they're seeking, just because of our tendency to think metrically. So that's something that I absolutely would respond to. Absolutely. 5 years of quality experience is more than enough against 10 years of whatever.
I guess another thing I wonder about is during the interview, maybe you and the hiring manager are big dog fans. Maybe you throw in something. I don't know whether you saw this from here's a link to the latest thing from the Westminster Kennel Club about Springer Spaniels or something like that. All right, you're a Red Sox fan. I know this one very well. And oh, by the way, here's how they beat the Yankees last night.
Yeah, I don't think I can comment on that.
Sorry.
Well, the Yankees had a bad loss yesterday.
I mean, was that a game or was that a game? At any rate. I think all I'm trying to do is say, gee, we found we had a common interest. Here's a little something I saw recently about that subject.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of something that I can share. Many years ago, I went into a consulting firm that had a contract with a client to do an Oracle system implementation.
Ooh.
It was in supply, okay? And I have plenty of supply experience, and I did have some systems implementation experience, but it was more at a higher executive level than it was as, let's say, in the project manager role. And so I said, well, let's see if I can talk to this guy. And I applied, and yeah, he said, I'd like to talk to you. I walk in the guy's office. I take a quick look around. And this is something you should all do. As soon as you walk in the office, you look at the person and say hello, and then look around. What you're looking for are things of the person's interest. I look around and I see a golf putter leaning against this guy's desk. And I look on the floor and I see 3 golf balls. He's practicing putting when he's relaxing in between interviews and calls. And I'm a golfer. So the first thing I do after I say hello to him, I say, hey, nice looking putter. The response is, oh, you want to try it? The first 5 or 10 minutes was all about golf. This just established a mutual interest and some chemistry, right? Conversation went on for about another 45 minutes about my background. And then he responded the next day with an offer for me to take on this assignment. I didn't accept it because after I heard about the detail and what I was going to be involved in managing is I really just didn't have the right experience in my mind. And I think he knew it too. He just liked me. We liked each other. I always do what Michael did in his final letter, his thank you letter. You might think that you like me and it would work well for the job, but I have to be confident that I'm going to be making a very, very good contribution. And so I said, thank you, no, I don't think that's right for me. But I'm sharing that with you as you go into the interview process. You want to remember that the first thing that they're looking for is chemistry. And my friend Alex Freund has, in his various presentations, commented about this numerous times, about the importance of connection, eye contact, how you shake hands, and that very, very first few seconds. This is when the relationship is being made. So by all means, be aware of that, take advantage of it.
Another person who talks about that is Abby Kohut. She thinks it's positive as well, but she does caution us, make sure you realize that you are in that person's office. So if you are interviewing with someone and Gary would have said, nice putter, imagine if the person said, I can't stand the game. Because it was not that person's office, it was the boss's office or something. So,
oh, wow.
So just make sure, you are aware, look for a nameplate or something that validates you're in the person's office.
Absolutely.
Well, Gary, there are no other questions right now. Oh, you have summary slides?
Okay, just to summarize, if you think about what I've shown you and you employ these things as part of your strategy of applying for opportunities and how you handle yourself post-interview, you're going to be presenting yourself as personable, professional, and businesslike. And this is absolutely going to enhance your candidacy. So this is my final slide. This is how you can contact me. And I'd be very happy to talk to any of you to help you in your career pursuit.
Thank you, Gary. I also did put your contact information in chat, which we do also post in just a little while along with the presentation slides. Thank you for sharing that. Two more questions seem to have just come in. So one is from James. Just to clarify, if you send a thank you letter via email to get it there by the next morning, can or should the email itself be the thank you, or should it be an attachment to the email?
It would be the thank you. I didn't get the last part of the statement, David.
Can or should the email itself be the thank you letter, or should it be an attachment in the email?
No, your thank you note, if you're sending it by email, that's the email. It doesn't have to be an attached document.
Very good. And he had a follow-up question, and if the answer is to send a thank you letter as an attachment, okay, well, then that's not it, but then what should the email say without being either too abrupt or too repetitious of the thank you letter? So if someone does make a thank you letter attachment, what should the content of the email be?
Oh, if they want to send it as a separate document?
Right.
I would just write a sentence or two saying, just wanted to share my thoughts with you post-interview, and please see them in the attached document, something like that.
Okay. There's another question from E, the letter E. When you want to connect with someone through a referral for information and create a network, then what should your message be? What message should you send, and what should you say? So when you want to connect through someone for information and create a network, what message should you send, and what should you say?
Yeah, so you're trying to develop a networking contact in a company. I would say something like, how you know the person. Let's say that you pick them up on LinkedIn. I see that you're currently working for the company. You may be aware that a position for XYZ is posted. I'm very interested in this. This is a good match for my background. I'd really like to get some personal knowledge of the company and thought that you might share a few minutes of your time with me to help me with that. I would appreciate it if you'd get in touch with me for a brief conversation. Gary.
Terrific. And for those of you who can't type as fast as Gary can speak, of course, this is recorded and it will be posted later today on our website. On our psgofmercercounty.org website, in the upper right corner of every page is a link, Meeting Presentation Documents. So that's where we have the presentation documents, which includes a link to the video. Or right below that is a link to our YouTube channel, which is where we post all of our videos. And so it will be later today because it does take a little while for GoToMeeting to first process and complete the video process. And then I have to download it and post it accordingly. The slide deck, Gary's slide deck, is now posted right now, right there on our meeting presentation document. So you're welcome to download that at your convenience. And so as we wrap up, once again, Gary, thank you so much. I'm forever grateful of your continued support and appreciation of PSG of Mercer County and job seekers in general. So thank you so much for leading this presentation.
Very welcome.
As we look ahead to coming weeks, we will be right back here next week, August 20th. Mark Miller will be presenting. He will be presenting virtually. He'll talk about career and industry disruption. So if you're interested and curious, what are disruptive factors in the industry, in your career, you would want to participate in that discussion. One thing that's really very sweet is or I should say a silver lining with having virtual meetings is the opportunity to have presenters come to us from outside our geography. And Mark will be our first internationally based presenter. He lives in Mexico, a little south of Guadalajara. So that's where he will be presenting from. He is an American, but he's an expat. And so that's next week, the 20th, the 27th. Marion James will be here. Positive Intelligence, Developing Mental Fitness. So great presentation on getting focus and promoting your understanding yourself better that way. So that's what we have for the next 2 weeks. And of course, you can always look on our website at our event calendar page. We are well populated through the end of the year. Not completely populated, but almost so. So you can see what other programs are there. You may find a presentation or a presenter that's just very interesting and important to you on our event calendar, so you'll want to put that in your calendar as well. Tomorrow morning, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey is presenting, and their website is thebreakfastclubnj.com, thebreakfastclubnj.com. It's tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. Ed Hahn, recruiter Ed Hahn, will be presenting LinkedIn, how recruiters use it. So if you want to know how you can make your LinkedIn profile more effective against the way recruiters search and use LinkedIn, you will want to listen to that presentation as well. The connection info is on the Breakfast Club website, thebreakfastclubnj.com. And also each Tuesday evening, New Jersey Job Seekers meets. It's Tuesdays at 7:30, and we usually post the meeting connection info right in our LinkedIn group. I'll have to put an updated link there, but it's the same link that you've used before. Monday mornings, PSG of Central New Jersey meets Monday at 10:30. psgcnj.biz, psgcnj.biz. And on Wednesday mornings at 9:30, PSG of Morris County will meet, psgmc.org, psgmc.org. So that's what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. And so we hope that we will see you again soon, virtually or in person. Hopefully in person would be nice, but we're all meeting virtually for the time being. And until we get to see each other and be together real soon, I will simply say, bye, everybody.